Part 17. The Appearance of Jibreel. On a Saturday during Ramadan in Cave Hira, the Prophet saw a light and heard a sound, but nothing came of it. The same thing occurred the next day. He saw a light and heard a sound. The following day, on a Monday, Jibreel appeared. When the Prophet was later asked why he fasts on Mondays, he said, "I was born on Monday and the revelation began on Monday." The angel Jibreel came to him and said,
"Read. Iqra."
The Prophet replied, "I cannot read." Jibreel then grabbed him and squeezed him so tightly that the Prophet lost all energy. Jibreel again demanded,
"Read."
and the Prophet again replied, "I cannot read." Jibreel squeezed him again a second time with the same vigor. The third time, Jibreel said,
"Read."
This time he continued with the first verses of the Quran ever to be revealed.
"Read. In the name of your Lord, who created. He created humans from a clinging clot. Read. And your Lord is the most generous who taught by the pen. He taught humanity what they knew not. Seerah 96, verses 1 to 5.
Scholars have discussed why Jibreel squeezed the Prophet and why he did it so tightly. There is no definitive answer, but some assert that it was done to show the Prophet that he was not dreaming, and that this was indeed a reality. Others suggest that Jibreel was indicating to the Prophet that he was about to receive a weighty inspiration. Surah al-Muzammil states,
"We will soon send upon you a weighty revelation." Surah 73, verse 5.
Some scholars opt for a more symbolic explanation, stating that the three squeezes refer to three major trials the Prophet would experience but ultimately survive. They are the Meccan boycott, the assassination attempt and hijrah, migration, and the Battle of Uhud. All three events will be explained in detail. The word Iqra has two linguistic meanings: to read and to recite from memory. When Jibreel commanded Iqra, the Prophet understood the former, that is, to read. So he responded, "I cannot read," because he was unlettered. Jibreel intended the latter, as the recitation will be in the name of Allah. Jibreel responded,
"Iqra bi ismi rabbika lazi halak."
The by is commonly translated as in, that is, in the name of your Lord. However, it can also mean by, so, read by the name of your Lord, that is, by Allah's help and permission. Allah then ends the first sentence with created, because He created everything. He specifies that the Creator of everything created mankind. This magnificent Creator is commanding you to recite. Iqra is then repeated intentionally, as it means keep reciting, that is, keep spreading the message no matter what. Some scholars add that the first Iqra is for knowledge of the Quran, and the second is for knowledge of this world, which is why the verse following the second instance is,
"Who taught by the pen, taught humanity what they knew not." Surah 96, verses 4 to 5.
After this event, the Prophet raced back to Khadijah with a palpitating heart. As he entered the door, he exclaimed, "Cover me up, cover me up!" This clearly shows how unexpected the whole event was for the Prophet. Moreover, it demonstrates his sincerity and humanity. He did not know what had just occurred and returned to his wife terrified. This was clearly not a premeditated ploy to claim prophethood for worldly gain. Khadijah calmed him down and asked him what was wrong. The Prophet revealed, "I am worried for myself." This sentence has led to strange interpretations about what the noble messenger intended, such as him doubting his sanity. The much more credible and sensible explanations are that either he feared for his safety due to the intensity of the squeezes, or that he was scared about seeing things other humans could not. Solidifying her role as his emotional rock, Khadijah responded,
"No, by Allah, Allah will never cause you harm. You are good to your kin, take on the burdens of others, give charity to the needy, are hospitable to guests, and you carry out all types of good."
Khadijah eloquently encapsulated the character of the Prophet, and then espoused the unequivocal principle that whoever does good by Allah will have Allah do good by them. After this event, Khadijah went to Addis, her uncle's Christian slave. After hearing what happened, he exclaimed,
"What? An angel of Allah in this heathen place of idols?"
Khadijah then went to Waraka ibn Nawfal, her cousin, and one of the only Hunafa remaining in Mecca. Waraka replied,
"By Allah, this is the keeper of secrets who came down to Musa."
Musa, was mentioned rather than Isa, because Waraka correctly predicted that his prophethood would resemble that of Musa more, as they both had political power and established laws, while the message of Isa was spiritual. Waraka continued,
How I wish I were a young man, so I could help you when your nation ridicules, persecutes, and expels you.
The prophet asked in disbelief, My nation will expel me? Waraka replied in the affirmative,
Yes, never has a prophet been sent except that his people ridicule, persecute, and expel him.
Waraka then passed away a short while after this conversation. It may sound peculiar for a prophet to ask a non-prophet for guidance, but at this moment the prophet had not yet digested and internalized the implications of what had occurred. The Arabs of Mecca were not familiar with the concept of prophethood, whereas the Jews and Christians had a long history of prophethood. Years later, Waraka's relatives would ask the prophet about his fate in the hereafter, to which the prophet said, I saw him wearing white robes, blessed with gardens in paradise. Some are thus of the opinion that Waraka was the first person to accept Islam, even though he did not utter the Shahada, declaration of faith, because the declaration did not even exist at the time. A few months passed without revelation or Jibrail's presence at all. The prophet would wander around the valleys of Mecca and revisit Cave Hira expecting to see him, but to no avail. This continued until one day the prophet suddenly saw him again. His name was called, but he could not see anyone. The prophet looked left and right, but not see anyone until he finally looked up and saw Jibril. The prophet said, I saw the same angel I saw in Cave Hira. He was sitting on a throne that was both in the heavens and the earth. I began to tremble and palpitate and rushed back to Khadijah again, saying, Cover me, cover me. That is when Jibril came with the second revelation in the form of Surah Al-Mudaththir.
O you, covered up, arise and warn, revere your Lord alone, purify your garments, continue to shun all idols. Do not do a favor expecting more in return, and persevere for the sake of your Lord. Surah 74, verses 1 to 7.
The symbolism is clear. O you wrapped up in comfort, discard the cloak, stand up and be active. Purify your garments physically, but more importantly, spiritually. Do not put your hopes and expectations in the hands of men, but rather rely on Allah. Some scholars note that with the first revelation, read, he became a prophet, and with the second revelation, arise and warn, he became a messenger. As for the difference between a prophet and a messenger, there are numerous scholarly opinions. Some state that they are synonymous. However, Allah states,
Whenever we sent a messenger or prophet before you, Surah 22, verse 52.
Which clearly indicates a difference. Moreover, another hadith states that there have been 313 messengers, as opposed to 124,000 prophets. Another scholarly opinion is that a messenger has a new Sharia, a code of Allah, whereas a prophet follows the Sharia of a previous messenger. However, Dawood and Sulaiman are examples of messengers that followed a previous messenger's Sharia, that of Musa. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah submits the opinion that a prophet is sent to a believing nation to renew and correct their faith, whereas a messenger is sent to an unbelieving nation. Linguistically, the word nabi, prophet, is derived from the word naba'a, yanba'u, to inform, and rasul, messenger, is from arsala, yursilu, to send. This definition is most plausible and correlates with all the Quranic verses describing the previous prophets and messengers.